Hey everyone, it's Hazel West, and I'm here with my June reading wrap up. So June was actually a really good month, which I was hoping for because I usually get more time to read in the summer. Even though I didn't get that much time this month, I still managed to read 10 books somehow. So I don't really know how it happened. I just ended up reading 10 books this month. So anyway, the first one I read was my monthly buddy read with my friend Mara at the Reading Hedgehog, and we decided to read Bright Smoke, Cold Fire by Rosamund Hodge this month. And this is her latest book. It came out last year, but neither of us had gotten around to reading it quite yet. So, um, it essentially is a Romeo and Juliet retelling. But as is typical with Rosamund Hodge, it's going to be really interesting, and there's going to be an amazing world. And yeah, there's definitely like a really interesting world um, in this. It's honestly, it's really hard to explain. I don't even know if I can explain the world, but essentially, it's kind of like um, separated into two. Like the Capulets and the I'm blanking on the other one, Montagues. Um, but they're not even called that in this. Like, the only names that were taken from actual Romeo and Juliet were, like, the main characters. Um, but yeah, it was a good book. It was very interesting. It's not my favorite Rosamund Hodge. It's definitely my favorite Romeo and Juliet retelling ever. Um, but but I definitely liked Rosamund Hodge's other books better. Like, it's not that this is a bad book. It's just I had a hard time connecting with the characters in this one. Um, Obviously, Cruel Beauty will be my was always been my absolute favorite. And I really really love the world in Crimson Bound, but and this world was really interesting, and it's super creepy at some points. But at the same time, it wasn't really my kind of thing, and I didn't understand a lot of I didn't understand all of it. Of course, that might be kind of because the story's not over yet either. Um, but there's also zombies in this, which were actually really cool zombies. They were kind of more like traditional, like voodoo zombies, which is definitely awesome. So the fact that Rosamund Hodge is an author that can put zombies into Romeo and Juliet and not have it seem like another really lame paranormal teen romance is, yeah, that makes her a really good author. Um, but yeah, I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. I'm almost, I almost think I want to go like 3.5 out of 4 stars because I think I gave Crimson Bound 4 stars, for a couple reasons, as opposed to 5. And I like this one a little bit less than that one, so I'm not really sure. Eventually, I might end up actually writing a review. But again, it's one of those books that's really, really kind of hard to explain. After that, I delved into my library reading stack that I got at the beginning of the month, and the first book I picked up from that was Thieving Weasels by Billy Taylor. Um, this is about a boy who his family is they're con men and thieves, and they're just essentially really, really despicable people. Um, and he has tried to get out of the life and go to a good school. And that's what he's doing until his uncle shows up. And essentially, he gets drugged back in. His mother plays a con on him that she's dying. And essentially, it's just like a whole mess of them trying to ruin his life because he left them. So I did enjoy this book. It was fun. It was a quick read. Honestly, it was infuriating seeing what his family would do to like to make him have a terrible life. Like, it was honestly sad, but I really enjoyed the way that it ended. And the main character, whose name I've forgotten, as usual, um, well, that's probably because he had several names, but he's most commonly known as Skip O'Rourke. Um, but he was a really good character. I enjoyed him a lot, and it was kind of interesting to see like the conflict between him like genuinely wanting to be with his family, but at the same time knowing that they're bad for him and that he really just wants to get out and live a normal life. So I thought this was a pretty fun one, and it was actually a pretty good con book. I mean, it's not like one of the more, you know, uh, it's kind of more on the funny side as opposed to like Six of Crows, but it was still good, and a couple things I hadn't quite guessed when I went through them, but when I went through it, but it was good. I ended up giving it 4 out of 5 stars. It was just kind of a fun, quick read to start the summer off with. And the next book I picked up was The Woman in the Walls by Amy Lukavics. This is one I've had my eye on since it came out. I think last October, maybe? But anyway, I hadn't read any of Amy Lukavics' books before, and I, I just, reading this one, I realized just how weird her books are. Like, I was expecting kind of like, a run-of-the-mill ghost story. Essentially, this is about this family and their house, and the girl in it is her father married into the family, and so and her mother became like the heir of the family after instead of her sister who actually wanted to be, or something like that. Anyway, there was, typical family angst. But so anyway, so she's living there with her cousin, and then one day her aunt walks into the woods and doesn't come back. And then there's like this whole manhunt, or they think there's a manhunt, but then they kind of realize that nothing has really happened. And then there's just a bunch of weird stuff going on in the house, and her cousin starts to go kind of cuckoo and gets really violent and talks about the woman in the walls talking to her, who she thinks is her mother, but the main girl isn't quite sure that's all the truth. So essentially, as the book goes on, there's just a bunch of like really weird stuff that is revealed about the family and the house, and it's just it gets weirder and weirder as it goes on, like until the ridiculous ending, which I'm not going to say anything about, but it was just really kind of strange. At the same time, I really loved the feel of it. Like, the way she writes this, or the way she writes horror is really good. Like, it's very suspenseful, and it keeps you wondering, like, what is going to happen next. And you're never sure exactly what's going to happen next, obviously, since I didn't see that ending coming for a mile. I mean, it's really, honestly, a lot of it is kind of cheesy and overblown, too. But, I mean, as far as, like, a summer read, when I just really wanted to pick up, like, kind of a creepy book, it was definitely that. It satisfied what I had needed from it. So, I didn't hate it. And I might end up picking up some of her other books as well. So, overall, I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. And I will probably end up reading some of her other books in the future. After that, I kind of read this throughout several weeks, but I picked up the Season 1 Supernatural Official Companion, and this is like a series by Nicholas Knight. This is like a series that they did. It's kind of like a behind-the-scenes look at the TV show Supernatural, and they go by season, and it was really, really fun to read. Like, they have a bunch of stuff, like interviews with the writers and the producers and directors and stuff. A lot of stuff from Eric Kripke, who is the original creator of Supernatural, who I love. I love Eric Kripke. I love reading about his writing style and writing process, especially because in a lot of ways, his process is very similar to my own. So I kind of feel he's like kindred spirit in the writer department. And just seeing like what he went through to get to the point of like the story of Supernatural even was just really fun. I enjoyed that so much. But yeah, and then it kind of goes episode by episode and talks about like fun stuff like costume design and you know set design, the difficulties they had with certain scenes, and it's just really really fun. I would definitely suggest this to any fan of the show to read these because it's actually been a while since I've watched the earlier seasons, and I kind of went back after reading this and rewatched a couple episodes. Now that you know like what goes on behind the scenes, and I love behind the scenes stuff anyway. Like that's one of my favorite parts of my favorite TV shows and movies is I always watch like the behind the scenes stuff. So anyway, definitely gave this 5 out of 5 stars. It was just really fun to pick up like between books or before bed when I didn't really have anything else to do. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. I've got really bad allergies right now. Anyway, the next book I picked up was The Cruelty by Scott Bergstrom. This is one I'd seen, I think, I'd seen a booktuber talking about it. Or, I don't know if they read it or if they just bought it. But it really intrigued me. I love spy stories. And this one sounded like it could either be a make or break. Because it's a female character. And she's looking for her father. So, you know, like with that, it can either be like really good, or you can get a really annoying female character who is just really entitled and has an attitude. Thankfully, it was the former. She just essentially was like a one-track mind with her mission, and I really, really loved this character, Gwen. Yeah, she was my favorite kind of female heroine because she is like really awesome. But at the same time, what I loved about this book was the reality of it. Like, she had to learn how to fight well, and she got trained properly. Like, she got trained in a way that I can believe a female would be able to take down guys, like, way bigger than her. So, that made sense. I really enjoyed seeing, like, how she kind of navigated, like, traveling around Europe, hiding from, you know, Interpol and stuff, and kind of keeping under the radar, because that was really interesting. I think it was pretty well done, and I've never been to any of these places, but it seemed like there was kind of a, you know, a different feel in each of them, which felt very authentic to me. So, that was well done. The story itself was really, like suspenseful and interesting, and I loved the revenge. This book does not pull punches. Like, Gwen takes her revenge, and she just does what she needs to do, and I totally, totally appreciate that. It surprised me on several occasions, actually, but it was really refreshing as well. Like, there was just, like, she was unapologetic, and I like that. So many times, like, you have, like, these kick-butt female characters who are like, oh, I'm the toughest thing ever, and then they kill someone and then they whine about it, even though it was totally necessary. Yeah, Gwen doesn't spend time whining because that's for losers. So, anyway, I definitely really enjoyed this one, and I think it's very underrated. I would definitely suggest this for anyone who wants, like, a really, like, kind of hardcore, sort of spy thriller, or even a really hardcore road trip, because that's essentially what this is. None of those fluffy summer romances. But anyway, I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. It was really good, and I definitely look forward to seeing what else this author comes up with. I don't know if it's gonna be if it's gonna have a sequel either. Like, the way it ended, it was kind of open, but at the same time, I was kind of okay with it being that way, because of the kind of story it is. But I wouldn't mind reading a sequel either, so. After that, I picked up And the Truth Crept In by Dawn Kurtagic. Kurtagic. I don't know how you pronounce her name. But, oh, I'm sorry, I got something in my eye. But, yeah, this name. Anyway, this is another kind of newish horror novel that I've had my eye on for a while. Um, and it is kind of, um, it's very, very strange. Okay, it's set in an old house, kind of in the middle of nowhere. And the girl whose name is, oh, Scylla, and her little sister Nori, they essentially escape their abusive father, and their mother, like, essentially gets them out, and they run to their aunt's house. Um, and it's kind of like really weird sort of place. It's old, and she's kind of strange, and everyone always thought she was crazy. So anyway, while they're there, Scylla starts just getting really weird vibes about the house in general and about her aunt, and eventually her aunt, like, essentially goes to the attic and never comes down and is just, like, strange stuff in the woods. And not only that, but the trees around the clearing that they're in just seem to be moving closer and closer to the house all the time. And then there's this boy who comes in who says he wants to help them, and he's from, like, a town nearby. Of course, Scylla doesn't necessarily believe him. The weirdest thing about this book was that it seems to be kind of like in a, like, the outside world is like in a war, is like going to war or something. And that was kind of like a thing that kept being mentioned in this book, and that was the only thing that didn't really track. Like, it was kind of explained in the end, but to me that was just kind of like a random thing that was thrown in here. um However, the horror aspect of this was amazing. Like, this book is a very strange format too. Like, there's kind of like weird journal entries and letters and flashbacks and stuff. It's not hard to read. Like, when I was flipping through it to begin with, I thought it was going to be really, really hard to read, but it's actually not that bad. And it just keeps it more suspenseful and more interesting, I think. But anyway, and then there's the, uh, there's, like, this creepy creature who's, what is he called? I'm trying to remember what he called. Um, I don't remember. But there was, like, this really creepy creature that was in the woods, and it was just, it was creepy. Like, and you have absolutely no idea what's going on in this book. But I actually thought the way that it ended, the way it wrapped up, and the explanation given was actually really, really, really interesting. Like, a lot of these books, it's like kind of a cop out usually, and it's just like, what? But this one actually made sense, and I thought it was really cool. I did not guess it either, so I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. Definitely one of the better horror novels I've read in a long time. After that, I needed something a little lighter, so I picked up Geekarella by Ashley Poston. This is one that I kind of really wanted to read, but at the same time been kind of hesitant to read because so many times these kind of books are just like, and I don't read a lot of contemporary, but I really ended up liking this one. It's just essentially a retelling of Cinderella. Like, it's a really good retelling of Cinderella, to be honest. It's very traditional. But also, it's about, obviously, geeks, and, or, as I call them, fan ladies. um, I think, and that can be, like, a whole problem. Like, honestly, the fan culture, I am a fan lady, and I am a geek, and I love stuff that I love, and I got that out of, this book, when, I cannot, duh, um, from Elle. Like, she's, what I liked about her is that she was a very, like, normal kind of fangirl, fan lady. Because she wasn't, like, one of those, like, weird people or the annoying people. She just loved what she loved for, because and this is another thing that I loved about this book, is the way she explained, like, the love of your fandoms, essentially, because, which is how I always felt about it, is that it's something you can escape to, and it's something that you can draw from. You know, the characters, seeing them overcome stuff, is what made me stronger a lot of times when I needed that. And I know that's definitely the way it is for a lot of people. And that's why we like to escape into these worlds, because it is an escape. Because sometimes real life just sucks. And I don't think there's anything wrong with escaping into your favorite world. And I loved how that message came across. Of course, there's like, you know, you can't hate anyone for what they like in the fandom, and we're all one. Like, sorry. But, I mean, people who ship gross ships, I'm just not into that. Like, and I wish people would not, like, pretend it's canon, but that's a whole rant that I won't get into. Anyway, and there was a little bit of that, but there wasn't, like, a ton of that either, so, you know, I could deal with that. But I really liked the characters, too. And also, another thing that I found funny was that there was a definite distinction between, like, real fans and then the annoying fangirls who essentially just like movies and shows because the actors are hot. So that was really funny. And I'm glad she put that in too, because we all know they're not actual fans. But I thought this was really cute. Elle was really, really good character. I really liked her. Like, you cannot not like her. And I also really love Darian. He was the love interest, and he also plays the main character in a remake of Elle's favorite show. So at first she was like, oh, I just can't stand this guy because he was like a teenage heartthrob, and she's like, I can't believe they cast him, and we've all been there, right? But as a reader, you're reading this and you're seeing like what a great guy he is, and how sweet he is, and how much of a geek he really is. So he has all this pressure on him not to ruin this role because it's one of his favorite shows. And so it was really kind of interesting. I liked how it goes because of Darian's perspective. You not only get to see like the fan perspective of Elle, but you get to see kind of like the production perspective of like making a movie, which I thought was really cool. Plus there's like a Comic-Con kind of thing in here, and essentially it just hits all the nerd highlights. Like, and I just enjoyed it a lot. Like, I had a couple issues with it, but really that was kind of like in the background anyway. And I think this is the kind of book fans really want to read. Not books about authors who rip off Harry Potter and then make money writing their own fan fiction off their own universes as a whole other book. And I think you all know who I'm talking about. So, yeah. This one was very good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. So, if you're looking for a really fun geeky read, I would totally pick that one up. Like, if you are in any fandom, if you are involved in any fandom, you will like that. I also loved all, like, the little mentions. Like, I think she probably hit the highlight on most of... I just loved how she, like, put in, like, didn't even, like, try to make up stuff. Like, some authors do. She just put in, like, she made the joke about the Chris's from, like, Marvel. And, like, there was just a bunch of other things that, and Firefly and Doctor Who references and Star Wars references. There were just so many, like, nerdy references in this that it made me laugh so much. But I liked it a lot. After that, I picked up the Supernatural official companion for season 2, also by Nicholas Knight. Essentially, my review is the same as the first one. It was still very entertaining to read, and I definitely am looking forward to continuing with the other books from the other seasons. I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars as well. So, very entertaining. After that, I needed a really short read for the end of the month, and I picked up The Transatlantic Conspiracy by G.D. Falkson. They always stick stickers over the authors' names at the library. Um, this one, I kind of did a very, very short write-up on Goodreads for it. Overall, like, the idea was really cool. It kind of is like Jules Verne. It's kind of like Murder on the Orient Express. But did it, but it didn't, deliver in either category, in my opinion. Like, the murders were just random and just thrown in there. Like, you read about, like, 50 pages of this book, maybe even more. And it's just kind of like ladies being, like, ladies, and like, oh, should we have a chaperone? Oh, I don't know. Is that proprietous? I don't know. And just, like, whatever. Um, and then murder happens, and then more murder happens, and essentially, and then it just kind of is a debacle from there. In reality, I liked the characters well enough. The storyline was interesting. It just needed to be, like, way longer. Like, I think this would have been a really good and interesting story if it was, like, at least twice as long, maybe even, like, a little more than that. Because it's only, like, it's, like, 220 pages. Like, it's not long at all, and it's definitely not long enough to make a plot like that, and so the plot was very, very, very rushed. Which was not a good thing in this. I mean, you know what's going on, but at the same time, it was mostly found out by explanation from other characters, as opposed to the characters actually finding out themselves. Like, everyone knew, and then the main girl is like, they just had to tell her. So, I hate it when books do that, because that's not good writing. Which kind of made me sad, because this was a very interesting idea. And it's been a while since I've read kind of like a steampunk Vernian story, but I find that a lot of times they're just not good, like, and that's probably why I don't pick them up. This one wasn't bad. I did end up giving it like a 3 out of 5 stars. Maybe 2.5, honestly. But I didn't hate it, and it was honestly too short to really hate anyway. But, you know, it was just, like, it needed work. This is one of those books that I wish I wish I was the editor for, because I would be like, no, this is an incomplete manuscript. But anyway, not, like, definitely not the worst book I've read all year, but it was just kind of, could use a little more. The final book I read this month, or really finished, I read it all through the month, was actually one of my own. That was Blood Ties, my first book in the Modern Tales of Nafina series. I set up a group read-along on Goodreads for this one throughout the month of June, and so I read it with a bunch of other people, and we had a really good time. It was kind of interesting rereading it, because it's been a couple years since I've actually read it. So at least I found out that I didn't completely ruin the continuity in the third book that I just finished writing. So that's always a good thing. But anyway, yeah, it was kind of fun to do it and like to discuss it with other people. I'm going to be doing a read-along for An Earthly King, which is book 2, at starting Monday, July 10th. So if anyone would like to join in that, I will put the link in the description below. So yeah, that was all the books that I read in June. Let me know how you guys' summer reading is going. And I will be back in July with hopefully another big wrap-up. I hope I have enough time to read. It's been a long time since I've had a lot of time to write, so I'm probably going to be doing a lot of that as well. But anyway, I hope you guys are having a good summer so far, and I'll see you later. Bye.